Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going through my August reads with you guys. And I've read a surprisingly big amount of books. I thought I read about 5 books or so, which I normally do, but it turns out I read 7 books in August, which is nice. So let's start off with the one that I read the longest ago. The longest ago I read Smothered by Chicklis. This has been on my list of books I wanted to read for a little while, and I'm just kind of going through all of the books that I want to read from like oldest to newest, and every time something pops up that I really am interested in, I try to squeeze it in somewhere as well. But this book was about Lulu, because her mom named her after the shoes, I'm pretty sure, Louboutins. Yeah, so this book is about Lou, who graduates from college, university, whatever you want to call it, moves back home and kind of tries to figure out life while she's doing that. Overall, kind of nice, kind of funny. Like, she has a diary, and we kind of read a lot of what's happening through her diary and her just writing down all the things that are happening and how she's experiencing it. I gave it 3 stars, and I feel like it's mostly because I thought it was kind of problematic in a way how her mom interacts with her. Like, she clings to her kids too much. She's like, I get it, like when your kids move out and that's kind of what you've always known, they're pretty rich, it seems like. Dad has been working, mom has been staying at home, and like taking care of the kids in one way is what she's always done. But taking care of the kids sometimes means telling them, hey, you're too fat, you need to go to a soul cycle class with me, those type of things. Not okay. And I know that it's kind of like meant to be in a funny way, and like mom is just trying to take care of her kids because she's scared of what will come next when she doesn't get to take care of them anymore. Now they're pretty much grown up, but yeah, those aspects did not really resonate with me, and I hope they never will. But chicklit, like, fun little read, but some problematic topics in there basically. Then I've read a non-fiction book as well, which is called Learned Optimism: How to Change Your Mind and Your Life. I didn't really believe that this book was going to change my life, but I find the psychology of like how we think, how we feel, like how we think can make us feel a certain way quite interesting. So Learned Optimism sounded quite interesting because it talks about how you can, well, learn to be more optimistic and how that will affect your life in a certain way. Definitely interesting parts in there also, like how, like, of course I am in a job where I sometimes hire people as well, and how it's interesting to maybe focus on like how optimistic are these people, because it might get them through certain things more easily than when they're really pessimistic, when they're really negative. Overall, like, I thought it was an interesting book, but at the same time I was hoping for a bit more like do these things or learn these things, and it was very, well, it was a pretty dry book. A lot of research that was kind of called out, which, like, it's nice to know that there's research behind what's being told, but a lot of it was about like the depression side of things, and then at the end it only started to become more about the learned optimism side of things. What I found really interesting, like one of the main takeaways, was that like you've got basically 3 different types of optimism if I listen to this book. And one is kind of about like how you feel like you can control certain situations, whether it's you that caused something or whether it's other people that caused something. Turns out that if you blame other people for stuff, you are more optimistic because you don't get depressed thinking that it was all your fault. I can see the reasoning behind it, but like, if you say, okay, you need to be as optimistic as you possibly can be, which means blaming other people for what's happening in your life, don't really agree with that. Now, I have to say that the writer also kind of points out, like, the question is whether you should actually want to be this way or not, but it leads to people being more optimistic and less likely to get depressed, which was interesting. But anyway, yeah, very, very theoretical read, basically. I gave it 3 stars because there were some interesting takeaways, but it was too dry. It was not as fun to read as I hoped it would have been. Then I read When Life Gives You Lululemons, which is kind of a Devil Wears Prada spin-off, and we're focusing on Emily here. Emily and 2 of her friends. One of them has kind of a difficult situation with her husband, and the other one tries to figure out how to be a mom in the suburbs, and Emily is helping the one that has a difficult situation with her husband out because it's kind of becoming an image thing for the woman. And yeah, again, like, I feel like The Devil Wears Prada was nice, and Emily was not my favorite character from that, so maybe that's what caused this. But also here, a lot of focus on especially like the suburb moms, basically, that are very focused on how to make sure that they won't lose their husbands, how to make sure that their appearances stay good, they're working out enough, their vaginas fit properly for their husbands. Apparently there's plastic surgery that you can do for that, at least according to this book. Like, all those type of things. And I'm just like, I don't, like, if your husband is cheating on you and you just feel like that's because you didn't do the right things, then I don't feel like your relationship is 100% right. Maybe it comes from both ways, so he needs to make sure that you still want to be with him as well. And if he cheats on you, then he might be focused on other things. Now, very much generalized, I know there is more to those types of situations. Luckily I've never been in that type of situation like that, but yeah, that again was kind of problematic to me. So 3 stars again. Nice little breeze through Chicklis, but some things that weren't my favorite in it as well. Then I read a pretty short book. This is Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. And it's a very figurative book. Like, you read about an old man that goes out on the sea, catches a big fish, and goes through a journey while initially trying to catch the fish and then trying to bring the fish home because it's very, very far out on the sea. It was interesting because one of my colleagues recommended this book, and he said that it's kind of a reread for him, and there's a lot of things that he's learning from it. And I read it and I was like, I think I don't get it, because he said it was a really, really interesting book and it taught him a lot. And for me, it was just like, okay, yeah, I feel kind of depressed at the end of reading this book, which I guess is not really how he felt about it. But then we started talking about it, which was, it's interesting to be able to talk about these type of books with other people that have actually read them as well. And we kind of came down to the fact that maybe because he is a guy and I'm a girl, that we perceive this whole thing different because we perceive the world different. So the message that comes out of the book is different. It was interesting. I'm curious to hear, even if you guys have read that book, like, how do you feel about it? Because it just didn't resonate with me as much as I thought it would based on what he said, like, he liked about it. So also this one I gave 3 stars. Let's see, then I read my first physical book of this month, and my only physical book that I read this month, People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Emily Henry, I always know that it's going to be a nice book to read because every book I've read by her, I've always enjoyed. And I believe this is the last book, not the last book, their Happy Place, which I read I think last month, is her last book, but this is the last one that I didn't read yet for me. As you can see, the title is in English, so I thought I bought the English version, but turns out at the bottom here it says that it's a Dutch edition, which I was kind of disappointed by because I don't know for how long, basically last 15 years, if not longer, I've been reading all my like books that were written in English as well, just because I feel like the message comes across better. With translations, there's always these little things where you're like, I get what you were trying to translate here, it just didn't really translate. I feel like most of it just sounds better in English because that's the original language. However, this one was translated really well, actually. I was surprised by how good it read and how little I was annoyed by like translations that just didn't fully hit the spot. But this book is about Poppy and Alex. They have been friends since university, and even though they're like completely different, once a year they come together, they go on a holiday together. And Poppy is working for a travel magazine now, so she's traveling a lot, she's writing a lot, and she is kind of at this point where she feels like something isn't right in her life anymore. Just she's kind of lost the passion, and she's trying to figure out what she wants. And the last 2 years they haven't gone on their holidays. We don't know why yet at the start. And she decides that what she needs, kind of thinking back, the last time she was really happy was on the last holiday that the two of them went on. So she kind of wants to recreate the happiness and their friendship, basically. So she gets in contact with Alex again, and they decide to go on another holiday. And basically you read like one chapter, you read one of the holidays that they went on previously and kind of what happened, and then you read about the holiday that they're on right now and how everything evolves there. I liked it. This one, I'm pretty sure, let me double check on my Goodreads. Yes, I gave 4 stars. Nothing mind-breaking, is that the right word? And I think the second to last chapter felt a little bit annoying to me. I think the book could have done without that, because it was trying to make things seem like, oh shit, is it really gonna happen? Like, is there still a plot twist change? That wasn't necessary. So yeah, but 4 stars. For most of it, I enjoyed it. Just that second to last chapter kind of, yeah, didn't need it. Then I finished 2 books on the last month of August still. I was really trying to get through those last little bits of them, because I knew that I would be able to finish them in August still instead of the 1st of September. I read Power You're Happy by Lisa Sugar. The subtitle is Work Hard, Play Nice, and Build Your Dream Life. Yeah, it seems like I'm trying to build my dream life here based on the books that I've been reading. Also non-fiction. Lisa Sugar is the owner, together with her husband, of Pop Sugar, which is a pretty well-known platform. I've definitely ran into it, not that I'm like following it, but I know of its existence, and I know that it's a pretty big thing. And she kind of explains like how she went, like starting off from university, a lot of things starting from university this time, but yeah, she started there, learned how to go through life, learned how to like find her passion, go through a few different jobs, all those things. So I feel like it's more in a way a guidebook for like people that maybe have just graduated or are a little bit more in that first part of their career. And she's talking about how to make certain decisions, how to make connections, how to make sure that you do things that are interesting or build towards doing what you want to do, even though what you're doing right now isn't. She talks about like family and friends and how those are important, those type of things. I don't think I learned a lot from this book, but at the same time it kind of makes you reframe again, like, okay, what do I actually want in, I guess it mainly focuses on her work life, even though there is a little bit of like personal life in there, but it made me at least think a little bit more about, okay, what do I want from my work life at the moment? Is this where I want to be? Is like, what are things that I want to learn more about? What are things that I want to develop more? So from that aspect, it made me think about things that are good to think about, I guess. But the book itself, I know it just wasn't really targeted at somebody like me. I think it's targeted at like 20-somethings basically, and I hate knowing that I'm not a 20-something anymore, but I don't think I was a target audience for this book. I gave it 3 stars. It read really quickly as well, so it was nice enough to read. And then lastly, I read The Celebrants by Stephen Rowley. This is a book about a group of friends in university. One of the 6 of them died, and while they're kind of going through processing that and right after the funeral, they decide to do a pact where every time somebody is at a point in their life when they're just very down, they're they're not liking life very much at that specific point. They decide that they will come together again and they will do that person's funeral so that they can see how they're actually loved and there's still people in the world that do care about them. Which is a really, really nice concept. It was nice to see that, because these pacts are activated, I don't know the right word, later in their life. So they agreed that when they were like maybe 20, 22 or something. It was right at the end of their university. They were about to take their last exams and graduate. And then they, somewhere in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, they're all like saying, okay, now is my time to like take the pact. I can't think of the right English word. So it's interesting that this book focuses not on the young people, but a little bit more on the older people. Older, yeah, in your 30s. I'm in my 30s, so it's kind of like me. So most of it focuses on these different times that they get together. They're pretty big chapters because there's like four or five like moments when they do this, and then part of it also kind of evolves around the last one that is happening right now in the book. And you read through one of the times that somebody activated the pact, and then the last part of the chapter is a little bit about like what built up towards the last time that they're doing this pact right now. It was a fun read. It was nice, but again, like, it just didn't speak to me in the way that I expected it would be. I thought I would like this more than I actually did, which I guess it happened. But yeah, I gave this one 3 stars as well. So basically, pretty much all the books that I read this month were 3 stars, except for this one. This was my only 4 stars, so good thing that I bought this one as a physical copy, because at least it's the one that I like the most. All the other ones I read on my Kindle, and like, I enjoyed them enough. I had an okay reading time this month, but none of them really spoke to me. So yeah, that's that. Now for next month, I'm hoping to still read like a few more like summary reads, because that was what this month was supposed to be. And a lot of these played, of course, during like summertime, but they didn't give me that like beach read type of vibe, even though I haven't been on a holiday anyway. But yeah, so a few more summer books, and then we can get into cozy fall reading, which I'm actually looking forward to. I never like was a fall girl, but I feel like over the last couple of years I've become more and more excited for fall when it started approaching, which is weird because I really like the sun as well. So anyway, that's it. Those were the 7 books that I read this month. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you've read any of them and what your opinions were about them, because I always like to hear when people maybe have a slightly different take on a book, or they got something out of it that I didn't see or I didn't notice. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Bye bye.